walking at dusk through the long meadow, recording this prose poem on my phone. That's my job, as old as soldiery. The hills, the soldered hills where current flows, green current. When you are finished recording, your lips are dried flowers. The trees are full of black plastic bags and hornets' nests, but not significance. The task of imbuing them falls to me. And it's me, Ben, just calling to check in. I'm on the way to pick up Marcella from daycare and just wanted to hear about your trip. I'm sure it must have been hard seeing him like that. Anyway, I love you and I'm here. Give me a call when you can. I'll be around until the late 19th century, when carved wood gives way to polished steel, especially in lake surfaces. You know how you sometimes realize it has been raining only when it stops? Silence falling on the roof, forming rivulets on the glass. This is the religious equivalent of that, especially in music and applied fields. Long meadows. Overwintering queens make wonderful pets. Just don't expect them to understand your writing, how you've rearranged the stresses to sponsor feelings in advance of the collective subject who might feel them. Good work if you can get it, and you can't. Nobody can. That's why the discipline is in crisis. This cut flower business, applied folds, false equivalents. I remember when I interviewed for this position. I was wearing a Regency trimmed velvet tailcoat with a small hole over the left breast where the lead ball had entered one of my great-grandfather's 5 heart-like structures. I met the committee at Hyatt. The room had migraine carpet. A conventional river scene hung above the bed. After the usual pleasantries, the chairperson requested that I sing, and soon the painted water began to flow. It's hard to believe that was more than 200 years ago, when people still got dressed up for air travel and children were expected to absorb light in their super black feathers, making contour disappear. They probably evolved to startle predators, make us seem deep, so that when they least expected it, we could cast their underground nests with molten aluminum, sell them online as sculpture. But if you've ever seen a dendritic pattern in a frozen pond, lightning captured in hard plastic, or the delicate venation of an insect's wing, the 4th vein of the wing is called the media, then you've probably felt that a spirit is at work in the world, or was, and that making it visible is the artist's task, or was. I am resolved to admire all elaborate silvery pathways, no matter where I find them. That's why I'm calling. I'm sitting in Grand Army Plaza by the fountain, which they've shut off until the spring, when it will again give sensuous expression to our freedom. In other words, I'm at work, realigning and interlocking barbules, lubricating what are essentially dead structures with a fatty oil I've developed for that purpose, thinking of you, holding you in my thoughts like fireflies in glass, cold to the touch, green current. You just can't blame yourself. The last time I saw him, we had dinner in Fort Greene, and he was cracking me up with his impressions, especially of John. He was drinking, but not too much. 1 cocktail, white wine. The only weird moment was when I had to look at my phone because I was getting a lot of texts and wanted to make sure everything was okay with the girls. He kind of freaked out about it. Am I boring you? Do you need to make a call? But I apologized and we moved on. What reassured me most was how excited he was about the new job, even if it didn't pay much. They were going to let him use the 3D printers for some of his own stuff, and he was really psyched about that. Anyway, I love you, and I'm here. I've got to get Marcella now, but tonight I'm around, promoting syllables, trying to avoid the twin traps of mere procedure and sentimentalism, ingesting around 17 milligrams, blunt-toothed leaves in motion light, signifying nothing but holding a place. Lately, my daughters have been asking what I do when they're at school. I want to say that I enchant the ferryman with my playing so that lost pets may return, that the magnet tiles arrange themselves into complex hexagonal structures at my song. But they know I'm not the musical one, that I describe the music of others, capture it in hard plastic. With the profits, I purchase an entrapping foam that coats a nest for a complete kill and a pendant that resembles a tiny abacus of pearls, responsibly sourced. What does a normal day look like for you? For me, the fruit is undefined around the edges, and the faces of some friends are mere suggestion, while others observe the standard codes of verisimilitude in a way that feels increasingly affected. Why appear vividly when it's dusk, has been dusk for ages? I don't know if oysters can feel pain, can't even know if other humans do, although I recognize what philosophers call pain behavior among my loved ones as the seasons change. Tie their stems together with unflavored dental floss and hang them upside down, but display them away from the windows or they'll fade. Polished steel gives way to painted water. A turn of phrase, a change of phrase, the slippages release small energy and the harvest falls to me. Someday I'd like to bring my daughters to work, but not today. Today is cut glass flowers reinforced internally with wire, a vibration control system, the religious equivalent of that. Lamp work, they're too young to understand. The effects, too mild. Their nests are paper. They can discriminate between fragments of foreign and natal comb. The interests between workers and their queen diverge. Those are the three prerequisites for song, for the formation of singers who will eat both meat and nectar, which they feed to larvae on the bus ride home. Marcella pulls the yellow stop request cord, but never hard enough, so you have to help without her knowing. Say, great job. Say great job to the sensible world if you want to encourage re-enchantment. Keep the trees in touch with their strengths. The magnolia's increasing northern range, for instance, soon to be cold hardy beyond Zone 4. The way we say of our children, they went down, to mean they fell asleep. That makes me glass. Soft glass, bending in long meadows, a fallacy each generation reinvents and disavows, a rocking motion. Otherwise, you're mixing pills and gin, and your friends are debating whether it constitutes a true attempt, recklessness, a cry for help before deciding it makes no difference. It's pain behavior. He has to be checked in, monitored, sponsored, set to music. Anyway, the girls are down and I can talk. I'm just clicking on things in bed, a review by a man named Baskin who says I have no feelings and hate art. Through the blinds, I can see the blue tip of the neighbor's vape pen, signaling in the dark, cold firefly. The raccoons are descending from their nests in foreclosed attics to roam the streets of Kensington. We moved last summer. Have a guest room now. Come visit. I can't believe I haven't seen you since his wedding.
Raindrops on kittens and schnitzel on roses, nose cream on my nose, whiskers and crisp eyelashes with noodles, wild geese that fly with their wings tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Ponies in dresses and warm doorbells and brown raindrops, girls with blue whiskers tied up with noodles, wild kettles that fly with bright copper wings. These are a few of my favorite things.
Oh, I want to say I'm president. Oh, I want to say I'm president. I want to live in the White House.
You're too old. You're out of touch.
I don't think I'm out of touch. As for too old, well, I have a very good memory about all the things back in my life. For example, I can remember Senator Benjamin Hill in 1878, when we were less than 70 years old. Good times and bad.
Ronald Reagan, you can see and understand the America of dirty streets and poor people.
The problem isn't being poor. The problem is money. And so poverty isn't I okay, I'm supposed to be the big reactionary. Okay, all right.
What people do you think you represented? The John
Yeah.
Birch Society was praising you.
Oh, yes, all right.
The John Birch Society,
Sure,
Milton Friedman,
certainly,
the far right.
all right. As a matter of fact, a few Republican panaceas, myself and people like myself, organized a task force of people outside government and inside. Well, this little group gathered, and we very carefully would open the car door with the window rolled down, shove the man's arm across the window, and then break it. The backbone of America, and then break it over the window. And then the pressure came on, that hidden longing came out, and gunshot, 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 gunshots, and so forth.
What about government's role in offsetting the negative consequences of the free enterprise business community you talked about?
Oh, now you get back to what I said earlier. What I'm talking about is the free marketplace, free enterprise, the regulations that government exists to have and are necessary is, yes, to ensure that someone can't sell us a can of poisoned meat. I think a can of poisoned meat had a problem that I think the people must recognize. The problem is that if you open a can of poisoned meat, hold it in your hand, it gets warm very fast while you're drinking it. We punch the holes in the top and drink it. Well, this fella's made a very economical Stein handle. You can buy a dozen of them and have them like you have your silverware. You're serving people poisoned foods in the can. You just clamp the stand, snap the stand. You just clamp the stand, snap the handle onto it, and people hold it by the handle and the drink doesn't warm up. And he's going to make $1 million.
Am that I am. I am that I. Am I? Am that. I am. I am. That I am. I am that I am. I am that am I. Am I that I am? Am I that am? I that I am. Am that I? Am I? That I am. That am I am. That I am. Am I? That I am. That am I. I that am I. I that am. I am I. Am that. I am. Am I that? Am I that I am? I am that I am. I am I that am. I am I that. I am that am I. I am that. I am that. I am that I am I. Am that. Am I? Am that I am that I am that am I am that I am that I am that I am that
Hey everybody, so let's get into Ardour today. But before we do, I want to go back to Audacity, just review Audacity and add a couple of ideas to that. Because I want you to start thinking about what you use destructive audio editors for as opposed to what you use non-destructive editors. And as we've discussed, Audacity is a destructive editor, whereas Ardour is a non-destructive editor. So I want you to download from Blackboard this file that I recorded, the media Ben Learner, and that's what you're going to do this tutorial with, and there's going to be a homework assignment using this audio file, and then all the things that we're covering in this tutorial you're then going to use with your own new recording. So let's just listen to this for a moment. Walking at dusk through the long meadow, recording this prose poem on my phone. So this is a beautiful surrealist piece by Ben Learner that talks about a lot of things, and it's all in the format of a recording that he's making on his phone, so I thought that was appropriate for this class. So, of course, the first step that we talked about in Audacity was normalizing. And as you know, normalizing looks for the current peak of the sound and then scales the entire sound up to the digital maximum range. So my recording here is an interesting example where you can't do that first. There's other work you need to do first, because if you look at this sound file, you'll see that my voice level is pretty consistent across the sound file, but here, around 4 minutes and 30 seconds, there's a big peak. That peak is going to mess with the normalization process, because when it's searching for the loudest point in the sound, it's obviously going to find this. And so if I do it now, select all, effect, normalize, okay, it makes it louder, but it makes it louder so that this peak is the one that reaches a value of +1. So I'm going to undo that, edit, undo, and before I normalize, I'm going to zoom in on this portion of the sound. First of all, see what this is. Cold to the touch, green current. You just clamp. Right, so that's me having a little coughing fit in the middle of my recording. So that's obviously useless stuff. So I'm going to highlight it, delete it, just hit the delete key. It goes away. Now when I zoom back out to my entire file, I have no more weird peaks. So now when I select all, effect, normalize, okay, that's a normalized file, right? So you see there, you can't just go through these steps without thinking about your sound file and things that might need to be adjusted because of the particulars of that sound file. So now it's going to be extremely loud, so we can turn it down a bit here. Walking at dusk through the long meadow, recording this prose poem on my phone. Okay, so the other things we want to do here while we're in the world of destructive editing are we can trim off the beginning part of this. Walking at dusk. So I'll just get rid of that, hit delete, it gets rid of it. I'm not going to do my fade anymore in Audacity. Previously we'd looked at fading in Audacity, but now that we're moving over to a non-destructive editor, that's the better place to do fades. The other thing that we can do while we're still in here is do our noise reduction. So I'll select a section, say Effect, Noise Reduction, Get Noise Profile, then select all, Effect, Noise Reduction, 9 decibels, okay. Because the noise reduction in Audacity is really good, and you don't want to be doing real-time noise reduction in a non-destructive environment. You want to do your noise reduction destructively so that it's written into the file. Walking at dusk through the long meadow, recording this prose poem on my phone. That's my job. As old as soldiery, the hill. Okay, so the other thing you want to do while you're still in Audacity is you want to go through and remove pops and clicks and other sounds. You can do that in a non-destructive editor, but that makes for lots of little edits, and it's much better if you make those edits invisibly in your destructive audio editor so that the edits that you see when you switch over to Ardour are your content edits. And that's not always going to be the case, but the goal here is to do more editing in Audacity so that you have fewer edits in Ardour, because edits in Audacity are invisible after they're completed, but all the edits in Ardour show. So if you have 200 edits on your timeline, that's a very cluttered timeline. And some of those edits might just be to remove a little pop or click. So I'm not going to go through this whole file, but you are going to go through this entire file and clean it. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Walking at dusk through the long. So there, like this is a real fine point, but sometimes these little mouth noises can be distracting. You can just remove them. At dusk, through the long meadow, recording this prose poem on my phone. That's my job. As old as soldiery, the hills, the soldered hills where current flows, green current. When you are finished recording, your lips are dried flowers. Like there's a little one right there. Delete that. Flowers. The trees are full of black plastic. Also, sometimes a breath before the text begins can be distracting. The trees are full of black plastic bags and hornets' nests, but not significance. There, that's a distracting one right there, that little inhale. Significance. The task of imbuing them. So I can just remove that little breath. Not significance. The task of imbuing them falls to me. There's another little mouth sound I can get rid of. It's very subtle work, but it does give you a clean file to go into your non-destructive editing with. Falls to me. And it's me, Ben, just calling to check in. I'm on the way to pick up Marcella from daycare and just wanted to hear about your trip. I'm sure it must have been hard seeing him like that. Anyway, I love you and I'm here. Give me a call when... Now here, I'm not bothered by this breath, but like that. Anyway, if you were bothered by it, you couldn't necessarily just delete it because it's going to ruin the rhythm of your sound. Like that. Anyway, right? So what you do in a case like this is either save that for your non-destructive editor, or if you do want to get rid of it, you've got to cover it with some background noise. You can't just cover it with silence. You need to cover it with the sound of the room. So I can copy a little silence from here, put my cursor there, and paste. And now I can delete this, and my timing is the same. I'm sure it must have been hard seeing him like that. Anyway, I love you, and I'm here. Give me a call when you can. I'll be around until the late 19th century, when carved wood gives way to polished steel, especially in lake surfaces. You know how you sometimes realize it has been raining only when it stops? Silence. There's a little word, end breath, that can just be gotten rid of. Sometimes realize it has been raining only when it stops. And actually that improves the rhythm too. So you want to move through a file just attending to those small details in Audacity. And once you've done that, there's one new step I'm going to show you, which is to select all, say Effect, High Pass Filter. The reason why we run a high pass filter on voice recordings is because there's no audio content in the human voice below 100 hertz, but very often that's where some noise gets picked up. If you have a furnace in your building, or if you live by a highway and large trucks are passing, you're going to get a lot of sound energy under 100 hertz that can be really distracting, and a couple of you did have that in your early recordings. And since just by removing that, you're not going to damage the human voice at all, you can just run a high-pass filter and say everything under 100 hertz is going to be rolled off. All the low sounds are going to be removed. So you can put in frequency of 100 hertz and roll off of 48 decibels per octave. That's an extremely steep filter. And that is just going to take all the low frequencies out of your sound. So if you do have any rumble, if you do have any heating, HVAC system or big trucks, it's just going to pull that sound right out, and you won't be able to hear the difference in the voice at all. You know how you sometimes realize it has been raining only when it stops? Silence, falling on the roof, forming rivulets on the glass. There's some other little mouth sounds that can just be pulled out. Rivulets on the glass. This is the religious equivalent of that, especially in music and applied fields. So go through this file, and I'm going to write this all into the homework, but you're going to go through this file and really do a fine cleaning on it. Once you're done, as we always do from Audacity, we're not going to save it, but we're going to export it as WAV. And we'll call it the Media Ben Learner Cleaned. And from there, we're going to go into Ardour. So just walking through the Ardour startup procedure again. I'm going to create a new session. Choose where that session's going to go. Give it a name. Check your settings. Start the audio. So we'll make a new audio track. We can take our cleaned file and just drag it right in there. Now the first thing you're going to want to learn is a keyboard shortcut to get you back to this hand tool, which if you're on any other tool, you can either click the hand tool or press the letter G, and that will take you back to the hand tool. And when you are in the hand tool, you can slide your audio around in time. So we'll just slide this audio right to the beginning of our timeline. The plus key will zoom you in, and you can click down here to drag as another way of zooming in and out. And moving around the region that you're looking at. So play with that a little bit so you get the feel for it. Now here's why I said don't make your fades in Audacity, because now that we're in a non-destructive environment, we can just add fades very easily. The white square here in the upper left-hand corner of the region, just click that and drag it, and it will insert an audio fade. That's a fade in. And you can change the curve of the audio fade. You can make it a fast fade or a slow fade by right-clicking on the box and selecting a fade curve. So now let's look at how non-destructive editing works. So I'm going to find a spot where I know that I make an error here. Our business, applied folds, false equivalents. I remember when I interviewed for this position, I was wearing a Regency trimmed velvet. I was wearing a Regency trimmed. See, there I did a couple of false starts. I couldn't quite get that phrase right. So that's very common in your recordings. And you just stop, you go back a few words, and you try again. Why? Because now that we're here, we can edit. So the other tool that we're going to use is the scissors tool, which you get to by hitting the letter C. So you're very often going to be switching back and forth between C and G to switch between the moving tool and the scissors tool. So I'm going to find my final good take. I was wearing a Regency trimmed velvet tailcoat with a small hole over the left breast where the lead ball had entered one of my great-grandfather's 5 heart-like structures. I met the committee. Okay, so this is my good take, so I'm going to, using the cut tool, cut this into 2 regions and then hit the G key to switch back to my move tool and just drag my good region over my bad region. Right? And this is what I mean by non-destructive. It's still under there. I haven't deleted anything. I'm just dragging the good part over top of the bad part so that we don't hear the bad part anymore. It's false equivalents. I remember when I interviewed for this position, I was wearing a Regency. Right, and now we can zoom in even further and do the fine work of timing it. I can click and resize this area and slide it even closer. I remember when I interviewed for this position, I was wearing a Regency trim. I want to bring it even closer. I remember when I interviewed for this position, I was wearing a Regency trimmed velvet tailcoat with a... And then to add a crossfade between the 2 regions. Remember how that was kind of an awkward process in Audacity? Here, creating a crossfade is the same as creating a fade in. Simply click and drag the handle, and that creates a crossfade between the 2 regions for a nice smooth transition. For this position, I was wearing a Regency trim. And that's perfect now. So this is going to be your next project within this sound file, is to go through, find all the places where you need to do some content editing because I needed to restart, and make edits like this so the whole piece reads continuously through. So far, we've been looking at the slide mode in Ardour. And in the slide mode, when you delete something, it leaves a space. And this is different than what we saw in Audacity. So if we zoom in here, audition this, or was, I hit C to switch to the cut tool. I make 2 cuts to separate this out into its separate region. I go to the G tool, click it to grab it, and I hit delete. In slide mode, a gap remains there. And I can grab this sound file and drag it over to close the gap. That's fine. But take a look at what happens if there's another edit here. When I grab this sound file to close this gap, it leaves a gap to the right. Now, sometimes this is the way you want to work. And in what we were doing previously, it was perfectly reasonable to be working in slide mode. However, when we don't want these gaps to appear, that's what ripple mode is for. So let me undo, switch to ripple mode. And now when I click this thing that I want to delete and hit delete, it closes the gap, just like in Audacity. But unlike Audacity, it leaves the separated regions. It leaves the edit here. The other nice thing about ripple mode is if I make multiple selections, make a cut here, make another cut here, make another cut here, switch back to my grabber tool, grab a region. When I hit Command X to cut it, it will put it on the clipboard and close the gap. And then I can hold this blue line over any other region and hit Command V to paste, and it will paste that audio in and push all later audio back on the timeline. So that's very, very useful for creating cut-ups, which is going to be part of this week's homework, rearranging the words in the audio. So you're going to want to become familiar with how the slide mode works, but also how the ripple mode works.